Extremely sorry for the delay. Sorry, I didn't keep tab of the time and I got delayed today. We'll get started in a minute. I've just sent the link and gone live. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्दा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Extremely sorry for the delay. I didn't have my phone around and didn't keep tab of the time. And I just missed the time and my phone as well. So it took me a while to get back. I'm so sorry. We are continuing from verse number 36. This chapter is titled The Departure of Sri Krishna, and the Pandavas eventually retire timely. Actually, the chapter name is Pandavas Retire Timely. After Arjun returned from Dwaraka, he broke the news that Sri Krishna has departed, and already Narada Muni had told them that it will be time for you to retire once the Lord departs. So now the Pandavas were also getting ready to retire at this point in time. So that is the context of this chapter, and we'll continue from verse number 36 onwards. यदा मुकुन्दो भगवानिमां महीं जहौ स्वतन्वा श्रवणीय सत्कथा तदा हरेवा प्रतिबुद्धचेतसाम् अभद्रहेतुः कलिरन्ववर्तता. Anyone would like to read translation?
Krishna Mataji.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, continue.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So, second.
Yeah.
When the personality of the Godhead, Lord Krishna, left this earthly planet in his self-same form, from that very day Kali, who had already partially appeared, became fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with a poor fund of knowledge.
Haribol. Already in the previous class, this topic was touched upon about Krishna's departure from this world. So when Krishna departed from this world, we should understand that his body is always transcendental. He and his body are non-different. So there is no question of Krishna leaving a body. Okay. Even though of late we are hearing in some lectures about this concept, our acharyas have not approved this concept. It may be there in certain Puranas, some some Rajasika and Tamasika Puranas, about this concept of Krishna, quote unquote, leaving an illusory body. But even that is also addressed by Srila Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and others, that there is no question of leaving any body in any sense. Okay. And in fact, it's very offensive to even think like that, in my opinion. So, Krishna, when he left this earthly planet, he left in a self-same form. This is very clearly mentioned. It is his self-same form. And Bhagavatam also ascribes to this particular understanding that he just ascended. That's it, period. And there is nothing like one separate body comes out and all that. There is no such concept mentioned anywhere. So when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, left this earthly planet in a self-same form, from that day, what happened? Kali came. So we all know that Kali advented as soon as Krishna left. So Kali, he had already partially appeared, but now he became fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with poor fund of knowledge. So Kali fully manifested once Krishna left. I wanted to read Chakravarti Pad's commentary to this particular verse because I thought everybody should be very clear about this. It is for me also, meaning all of us should be very, very clear about this. And if we hear anyone talk about the body leaving and all that, we should be able to counteract that argument very heavily. So that is the reason I wanted to read Chakravarti Pad's commentary. So Chakravarti Pad, for this particular verse, he says, this verse clarifies the condition of his giving up his body. When he left with his body, Swatanva means, according to Srila Sridhara Swami, leaving to Vaikunta with his own body. He gave up the earth by means of his body. This does not mean he gave up the earth along with his body. That is wrong interpretation. Because of the rule Upapadda Vibhakte Karaka Vibhaktir Bhaliyasi. Instrumental meaning of inflection is stronger than the meaning accompanying. And then he quotes a verse and he says from Bhagavatam itself, the Lord having shown his form, the center of attraction for all eyes, then took that form and disappeared from the men who had performed austerities, but had attained the Lord's mercy and were continually craving a vision of his form. 3:2:11 Srimad Bhagavatam. In this verse, after showing his form Swabimbam to the eyes of the world, he again withdrew it and disappeared. This verse does not say he gave up a body. The Krishna Sandarbha makes this point and clarifies it very clearly. From that moment onwards, Tadahaha, Kali entered those with sleeping intelligence. Kali did not affect those who had a discrimination. The thief steals wealth from a sleeping person, but is afraid to steal from someone who is awake. So the point that is being made here is Krishna left along with his so-called visible body, along with that he left. He didn't leave back the body on earth. Okay. So this is very clearly, nicely written by Chakravarti Pad as well as detailedly described by Srila Jiva Goswami. So continuing the purport of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says, this Kali, right? Kali came into this world after Krishna departed. Kali can affect only people who are sleeping, meaning who are not aware of Krishna consciousness. So the influence of Kali can be enforced only upon those who are not fully developed in God consciousness. And if we want to neutralize the effects of Kali, what we have to do is we have to keep ourselves under the care of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Kali started coming right after the Battle of Kurukshetra, but then it could not exert its full influence because the Lord was present. So when the Lord departed from this earthly planet in his own transcendental body, as soon as he left, the symptoms of Kali Yuga was seen very clearly by everybody, meaning Kali had completely onset. Actually, Maharaj Yudhishthir already started seeing the symptoms of Kali Yuga when Krishna departed prior to Arjun's arrival from Dwaraka. He was able to understand that things are not all right. But after Krishna left, there was a complete onset. But how much does Kali affect us? As long as we are Krishna conscious, we are nicely protected by the process of Krishna consciousness. And Kali, though it is present, it cannot affect us. Okay. So again, Chakravarti Pad has very clearly said, as we have already explained, Prabhupada also emphasizes, the Lord left our sight just as when the sun sets it out of our sight, meaning we should not think that the Lord's disappearance is like complete absence. It is more like the sun. When the sun appears in the east, obviously it has set in the west, but then it is going to reappear in the west. So it has not disappeared. Rather, our vision is gone. So that is the understanding that we should have about the Lord's presence. 37. युधिष्ठिरस्तत् परिसर्पणम्बुधः पुरे च राष्ट्रे च गृहे तथात्मनि विभाव्य लोभान्त्र जिह्महिंसनादि अधर्मचक्रं गमनाय पर्यदात्. Anyone wants to read translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Maharaj Yudhishthira was intelligent enough. Maharaj Yudhishthira was intelligent enough to understand the influence of the age of Kali, characterized by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital, state, home, and among individuals. So he wisely prepared himself to leave home, and he dressed accordingly.
So Yudhishthir Maharaj could understand that Kali has completely taken over. He already started seeing symptoms, but now that Krishna had completely gone, from his vision, he could see that Kali had spread by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, violence throughout the capital, and so much changes in the individuals. So he thought that Narada had already warned him that he also should retire. So he dressed accordingly so that he could retire. So the purport Prabhupada is telling that in this present day, there are so many qualities of Kali Yuga. And even 5,000 years ago, after the war in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the influence of Kali Yuga began to onset. And this Kali Yuga is going to continue for another 427,000 years. So these qualities of Kali Yuga, like falsehood, diplomacy, cheating, violence, all these things are only going to keep increasing day after day. And this was nicely visible even in an early stage right after the war of Kurukshetra. So Maharaj Yudhishthir, who was a very great devotee, he was not very comfortable staying in the kingdom during this age of Kali. So he preferred to retire from household life, and he wanted to set his mindset in a way that he focuses on Krishna consciousness. And these Pandavas, they are no ordinary people. They are eternal companions of the Lord, and they know the purpose of life. So besides being an ideal king, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he wanted to retire at the right time to set an example for others. So as soon as he saw that a young man is there to take over the kingdom, he decided that it is time for him to retire. This should be the consciousness of great leaders. One should not think that, okay, this throne is for me, this position is for me, and not let the youngsters arise. And Prabhupada says modern politicians should take lesson from Maharaj Yudhishthir about voluntary retirement from active life, and they should make room for younger generation. This is so rampant in today's world. We have so much attachment to name, fame, position, and we don't want to give it up. Even when we are 100, 110, even then we just want to continue 90, 95. All the leaders, they are all so old. They are all literally invalid, but they can't give up the name, fame, position. It is very, very difficult to give that up. So they don't want to allow the youngsters to take over. But Prabhupada here says Yudhishthir Maharaj was such an ideal king. He retired when he was old and he knew his goal of life. His goal of life is to focus on spiritual realization. We all know the letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Gandhiji also. Prabhupada said, you have become an old man. Don't sit with politics. Don't continue this. Focus on the goal of life. Otherwise, time is running out. So this advice is very, very important for everybody. Actually, what to talk of old people, death can come anytime to anybody, right? So we should always constantly be aware that we should focus on the highest goal of life. It is extremely important. That's why Prahlad Maharaj said you start Krishna consciousness when you are young and somehow or the other focus on Krishna, and especially for older people, especially when it's time for them to retire. This attachment is natural because that is what people have been doing since they are young, right? Since they're 20, 21, they have been earning, working, taking care of family. Yeah, it is natural that attachment will be there, but we have to fight that attachment and focus on the higher goal because ultimately we have to think about what is good for the soul. The body, it is great. So many things are important for the body. Yes, we continue to take care of the body, but one should also focus on what is important, the higher goal, the benefit of the soul. That's what Yudhishthir Maharaj decided to do at this moment. 38. Swarat pautram vinayinam atmanah susammam gunaihi toyani vaha patim bhumir abhyashinchat gajahvaye. Anyone for translation?
Translation. Thereafter, in the capital of Hastinapur, he enthroned his grandson, who was trained and equally qualified as the emperor and master of all land bordered, bordered by the seas. Hare.
Jai Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. So, he was ruling Hastinapura, and he decided that he wanted to retire. So he enthroned his grandson, who was Parikshit Maharaj, who was well trained, very qualified. We have already seen about Parikshit. I mean, did we? Yeah, we have seen a little bit about Parikshit Maharaj already. That he was well trained and he was equally qualified as the emperor, and he took over the throne and ruled the land that was bordered by the seas. So basically, he took over the entire Bharatavarsha completely. He became the emperor. Prabhupada says the total land on the earth was bordered by the seas, and this entire earth, which was called as Bharatavarsha in earlier times, was under the subjugation of the king of Hastinapur. And Maharaj Yudhishthir trained his grandson Maharaj Parikshit very well, and Parikshit was equally qualified. He was a good administrator. He was a very good caretaker of his citizens. So Maharaj Parikshit was enthroned on the seat of Maharaj Yudhishthir before Yudhishthir perfected his life. So first Yudhishthir Maharaj ensured that the country had a proper king, and then he proceeded. Then he proceeded to retire. And here Maharaj Parikshit is a particular word is used for Maharaj Parikshit. The word used is vinayinam. It is very significant. What is vinayinam? Here we say vinayinam means properly trained. Maharaj Parikshit was properly trained. It is extremely important that the emperor of the world is properly trained. We just cannot say, okay, this is my son, so he is fit to sit on the throne. No, if he's your son, he has to first be trained to become the next king, next administrator. Then only he should be given the throne. Again, this is another lesson for the modern day politicians. Sometimes, of course, not in this country, but in India and so many other places, even here also maybe, sometimes it is all bloodline, right? My son's son. So it is a game of this. Even politics is also a family business. But that's okay. In ancient times, that's how it was. In ancient times, it was all kings and the bloodline only could sit on the throne. That is perfectly fine, provided they are properly trained. They should be qualified. They should be well trained. So when Maharaj Yudhishthir as well as Parikshit Maharaj were ruling, the citizens were very, very happy. There was ample production of grains, fruits, milks, herbs, and all that the people needed was plentifully available. And not just that, the people, they didn't have much bodily miseries and disturbances. Everyone was happy in all respects. And most importantly, the people there, not only was the king properly trained, but even the people were also properly trained, not just in their swadharma, but they were also trained to attain the highest goal of life. People were all enlightened. So, when people are enlightened, what happens is you stop quarreling over trivial matters. This is so interesting. Hmm? In ancient times, I would often think about this. In ancient times, lot of people would live in Sanatana Dharma, in ancient Indian culture. We talk of joint families, right? I'm talking about 3, 4 generations back, not even 1 or 2 generations back. I'm talking about many, many generations back. They were able to live together. They were able to do it. And sometimes, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books, you will understand the reason they were able to pull it off is because they had a higher focus. They were trained properly to think on the higher goal of life. So they were not very entangled in trivialities, small trivial issues. They didn't have time to quarrel over it. Day in and day out, they were engaged very nicely in Krishna consciousness, and their consciousness was tuned with a higher purpose. So these quarrels over trivial issues was not very much there. But then eventually, with the age of Kali Yuga, slowly all these qualities started vanishing. The kings didn't have these qualities, the citizens don't have these qualities, their focus has completely changed. It's all about how you're making yourself physically comfortable. Our priorities have changed, our lifestyle has changed. So, all the more, and we see even disparity between the ruler and the ruled, that is very much present in today's age. So, there's not much spiritual consciousness, and there is trouble. Mm. There is trouble because of that. But in those days, when the consciousness was perfectly aligned to spirituality, at that time, all these trivial issues were not there. And there was no extreme disparity between the rich and the poor, the ruler and the ruled. So it was an ideal society. But with the onset of Kali means quarrel, right? So with the onset of Kali Yuga, things start getting worse and worse. They worsen and worsen with time. Okay. Now, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he decided to retire. He changed his attire, meaning he wanted to take sannyas and go to the forest. But before that, he enthroned his grandson, Parikshit Maharaj. But then, who else was in charge of the citizens? Here, we have to talk about Mathura because now Krishna has departed. So, what happened to Mathura? मथुरायं तथा वज्रं शूरसेनपतिं ततः प्राजापत्यां निरूप्येष्टिं मग्नीन् अपिबद् ईश्वरः. Anyone for translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah.
Then he posted Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, grandson of Lord Krishna, at Mathura as king of Surasena. Afterwards, Maharaja Yudhishthira performed a Prajapatiya sacrifice and placed in himself the fire for quitting household life.
So what happened was there he enthroned Parikshit Maharaj as the emperor of the world. But about the Shurasena province or the Mathura province, now that Krishna had departed, he placed Vajranabha, who was Aniruddha's son, as the king of the Shurasen province. And afterwards, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he performed a great Prajapatya sacrifice and he quit the fire of household life. So, meaning he just decided to give up all his household duties and enter the renounced order of life.
He is himself the fire.
Mataji? Okay. So, Prabhupada talks about the Varnashram Dharma. He says that the Varnashram Dharma is there in a civilized society. And at this point in time, Yudhishthir Maharaj was lighting the fire as a householder. But then, after he gave away the administration to Parikshit Maharaj, he quit the system of lighting fire, which means he quit the Grihastha ashram and he took the sannyasa and he left home. So, everybody in our life, we should think about the last stage of life. And as much as possible, Prabhupada says, at least the last 15 to 20 years prior to death, one should devote to devotional service to the Lord. If we are continuing material enjoyment all of our life, then our mind will be absorbed only in fruitive activities and material enjoyment. And it will become very, very difficult to get out of the conditioned life and material bondage. So we should not follow the suicidal policy of neglecting the supreme task of attaining highest perfection of life. Prabhupada calls it suicidal tendency. And I think in Ishopanishad we call it Atmaha, killer of the soul, right? So we should focus on the need for the soul. If we have forgotten the need of the soul, then it is considered suicide. Suicide is highly condemned. So, what is needed for the soul is something that we should keep some time and focus on. Yes, we have focused a lot on the Grihastha ashram. We are focusing. We are focusing on our duties, Swadharma. But eventually, last 10-15 years at least, we should intensely focus in bhakti. And we have seen great personalities even in today's time who are setting by example. Even if they don't go to the forest, in the house itself, in the household, inside the house itself, they are living like sannyasis, focusing full time in Krishna consciousness. Very classic example, Vaisheshika Prabhu. He has converted his garage into a nice kutir, and he lives there. And only for bare minimum needs he comes inside the house, and he lives the life of Vanaprastha very, very nicely. So, like that, there are we can, according to time, place, and circumstance, we can choose how we want to embrace this Vanaprastha life. We need not go to the forest, but at least we should remember our retired life is meant for Krishna consciousness. Even in our retired life, if our only worry is family maintenance and our passion for certain activities that we have been doing all our life, we are missing the ultimate goal of life. It is extremely important to focus on the ultimate goal of life. Otherwise, it's as good as suicide. That's what Prabhupada says. We should voluntarily try to shift our consciousness towards Krishna consciousness. For some people, it might not be easy not to find fault with anybody. It is just not naturally possible for some people. But with training, slowly, gradually, it is possible. It can be done. When our mind and our interest is fixed towards a higher purpose, eventually we will do it. Of course, practically, we have to see what is needed for the family, for our body, for everything. Practically, we should take care of everything. Nobody is saying be impractical. At the same time, it is very, very important to know the higher goal. That is what Prabhupada is telling here. 40. विसृज्य तत्र तत्सर्वं दुकूल बलयादिकं निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः सञ्चिन्नेनाशेषबन्धनः. Anyone for translation, please?
I'll do, Mataji. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, dear Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhishthira at that once relinquished all his garments, bells, and ornaments of the royal order and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. So he gave up everything, his royal order, his royal clothing, and he became disinterested in things of this world, and he became unattached. So Prabhupada, very nicely, he says, to become purified of material contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord. If we want to become one of the associates of the Lord, go back home, back to Godhead, then we have to become very, very pure, spiritually pure. How do we become spiritually pure? We have to consciously reduce the material contamination, material attachment that we have. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he wanted to become spiritually pure. So what did he do? He gave up his royal opulence. He gave up his royal dress and garments. The kashaya, he took the kashaya or the saffron cloth of a sannyasi. And he changed his dress. He became disinterested in the kingdom and family. He was free from material contamination. So he gave up all these designations most people are attached to: family, society, country, occupation, wealth, position. All these are different designations we are attached to. But all these are they are all materially attractive, but it is considered very impure. It degrades our consciousness. Prabhupada says that especially this national consciousness, people are very attached to. The leaders of today's modern age, they are very attached to one's country. Attached to one's family is one thing, but being attached to one's country conscious, that is another problem with great leaders. But all these designations have to be removed. Then only one will become eligible to go home back to Godhead. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he prepared to leave this world. He didn't have national consciousness also. And actually it is celebrated. Maharaj Yudhishthira and Ramchandra, they are all highly celebrated as the best of kings. But during their last time, especially Maharaj Yudhishthira here, of course, Ramchandra, the Supreme Lord, so we can't talk about it. But Maharaj Yudhishthira, he is celebrated to this day as a great king, but he was not attached to country, home. He was not attached to all that. We think it's a great quality to be attached to one's country, great quality to show attachment to our designations. But Maharaj Yudhishthira gave up all these attachments and he was ready to retire. He just gave up everything like that. And he's considered a great emperor because when he was an emperor, he did his duty perfectly. But then when it was time for his retirement, he did that also perfectly. This is how a great king functions. Text 41. Vacham juhava manasi tat prana yitare chatam mrityau apannam sotsargam tam panchavatehi ajohavit. Anyone for translation, please?
Hare Krishna. Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind into life, life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of the 5 elements, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life.
Haribol, since Lalita Mataji read this, and she is also a practitioner of yoga, Hatha Yoga. Mataji, can you say this in simple words, what you just read?
Mataji. He amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind. So it goes inward, right, Mataji? Withdraws all his outward activities, and So senses into the mind, then the mind into life. So
Mm.
mind and life is one, that is the yoga of this Atma and Paramatma. So
Mm.
life into breathing. So when you focus on your breathing, which is granted, every breath is a sanction of God, Lord. So he gets into that awareness of each and every breath. His total existence into the embodiment of 5 elements. So
Mm.
he could see what is the gross body, subtle body, and so on. So, and he is away from the self of ego and things. So, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life. So, after getting rid of the bodily conception, he becomes pure. He's out of this self, ego, conscious. Then he's come with that complete union mode. I think he became free from the material conception of life. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. I think yogis can understand this better. And I've heard so many times, the people who do this yoga, they talk about concentrating on the breath. Because I don't know how that works, because here it says he amalgamated sense organs into the mind, that you already explained how that as they are doing maybe pratyahara, right? Slowly the external sense organs, the action of the external sense organs is reduced, and the mind is considered higher than the sense organs, than the 5 senses. So they withdraw the activities of the sense organs and merge it into the mind, and then mind into life and life into breathing. So I've heard yogis always say that you should watch your breathing. Is that right, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. So what happens, Mataji, actually, why that breathing is like so crucial?
So
What's the-
as they reduce the number of breathing, as the mind becomes united with the, then after the union,
Mm.
it's just that the breathing itself becomes the, as you know, Mataji, all these 5 words, right? So that
Mm.
samana mode, I think, it becomes like everything becomes an offering. So
Mm.
yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Yeah, so
you.
they balance,
Yes,
they balance their existence, life through samana vayu, right?
yes,
So the breathing, everything is balanced. The 5 airs are balanced in the body,
yes,
and then their entire body is merged into the 5 elements outside, I believe, right? And then this body is given up, body into death. So then the spirit soul is there, and the spirit soul completely becomes pure and free from any sort of material conception of life. We also saw a similar methodology that was followed by Dhritarashtra, if I'm not wrong, in one of the earlier verses. And this is also the layers of the universe. If again, the different layers of the universe also we have checked out. These elements, the 5 gross elements, the subtle elements, these are also the universal coverings. So basically, our body is also made up of the same, and the universal coverings also has this, meaning this world also has it. So one by one, all the elements are with in our body itself, the external sense organs, the mind, and then the breathing, everything is aligned in a particular way, and it merges into the external elements. Correct? That is the way of giving up one's existence through this method of yoga, and one sees oneself as pure self. Is that correct, Mataji? Did I try to explain it correctly?
yes, Mataji. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So, but we'll also take help of Prabhupada's purpose.
yes, Mataji, because these things are so intricate. Sometimes they say this Udan Vayu is the highest because through Brahmarandra they leave their body yogis and they merge into that Brahman. So better we go with Prabhupada's words.
Okay. Okay. So Maharaj Yudhishthir, he began to concentrate, just like Arjun, he began to concentrate and gradually became free from all material bondage. So how did he do that? First, he concentrated all the actions of the senses and amalgamated into the mind. First step. So he concentrated all the actions of the senses, focus on all these senses, and then amalgamate, that is, amalgamate everything or the activities of the senses into the mind. That means he turned his mind towards the service of the Lord. Okay, to do this, of course, some impersonalists may do it in a very gross manner, but ideally, a devotee will turn his mind towards the service of the Lord. He prayed that since all material activities are performed by the mind in terms of actions and reactions of the material senses, and since he was going back to Godhead, his mind would wind up its material activities and be turned towards the service of the Lord. So then there was no longer any need for material activities because all the mind was completely focused on Krishna. So there was no need for any material activities through the senses and the mind. So actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped, correct? It is very, very difficult to control the mind, and it is uh, it is not practical. Hmm? But then the mind can be focused on Krishna. That is the best thing that you can do with the mind. Here, Prabhupada says the material color of the mind is changed when one washes it clean of the contaminations of life breathing and thereby frees it from the contamination of repeated births and deaths and situates it in pure spiritual life. Okay, so the mind uh, is purified when the breathing is actually controlled. So with the focus on breathing, the mind is also controlled, and the contamination of the mind is removed, and eventually one is situated in spiritual life. All is manifested by the temporary embodiment of the material body, which is the production of the mind at the time of death. So, like this, when the mind is purified by the practice of loving service to the Lord and it is engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord, there is no question of the mind producing another body after death. It will be freed from the absorption in material contamination, and the pure soul will be able to return home back to Godhead. I will try to summarize this purport again. See, what happens is the first step for these people who are also practicing the process of it is, of course, bhakti, but it is yoga mishra bhakti. They also have some elements of yoga in their practice. What they try to do is first they stop the activities of the sense organs. So they amalgamate the sense organs into the chief of all the sense organs, which is the mind. And this mind has to be purified. And with the aid of focus on breathing, they purify the mind, and of course the mind should be continuously engaged in devotional service. That is the best way to purify the mind. Not just by physical breathing you can purify the mind, but with the mind being focused on devotional service and controlling the breath, inward and outward movement, um, balancing the breath. One's mind is pure, becomes pure, and he becomes free from the material conception of life, and he understands he is spirit soul. So this is just a little short summary. Of course, we don't have any practical knowledge of this. None of us are really practicing it this way. But we can understand that Yudhishthir Maharaj fixed his mind on Krishna consciousness. He fixed his mind on Krishna and he purified his existence. He didn't have any distractions of the senses or the mind. Yes, Praladananda Prabhu, please.
No, Pranam Mataji. This reminds me of Bhagavatam Mahatma and Gokarna Maharaj telling his father what to do. And those two slokas they're parallel to this. Gokarna Maharaj telling his father that, Dehe stimans rudirebi mati tyadatvam. First step is that you take out this mati, which is that I'm the body. Dehe asti mans rudirebi mati tyadatvam. Then, saying Jaya Sutta disu mamta vimunchi. All right. Once you come to this stage that, I'm not this bones and blood and all these things. Then who are these? My wife and children and all that. So dehe simhan srudivam batityam jaya srudim mamtam pasyanisam jagadidam kshanbhanganishtham. Everything is collapsible within a second. All this material world which we are living. Pasyanisam jagadidam vairagya rag rasiko bhav bhakti nishtham. And develop some vairagya as you prepare for leaving this body. And then he says, Dharmam bhajasva satatam. Now that Dharmam refers to 9.3 Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says, Asraddhanam dharma. It's a bhakti dharma. So, Dharmam bhajasva satatam, tyajalok dharma, sevasva sadhu purisam, jahi kam trushnam. Anyasya gundos chintanamasu mukva seva katha rasraham mitram pibatta. So just merge yourself in Krishna Katha. And that's how that's how one can really, So this kind of practical, we do not do pranayama and ashtanga yoga, this is not practical. But these are some practical steps which we can, especially with the advanced age, one can prepare. I just thought of sharing this matter. Thank you for allowing.
Very good. Very, very nice, Prabhu. Very, very nice. Yeah. So the principle is
Hare
basically
Krishna Mataji,
withdraw.
sorry, I just
Yeah.
thought of it's just a
Yes.
general conception, Mataji, not a authentic, just my thought. So it's like the blood is a puppeteer holding a thread and make you see you through your eyes and move your limbs of to do all these sense activities. So the puppeteer holding the breath through the thread, he's holding the control without his breath, breath and the aware, his this Chaitanya energy, we won't be able to do or function all of this. So just surrendering unto the puppeteer is the ultimate. That's how we stop our senses.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Even stopping our senses from acting also. Who are we? I mean, we are not even so independent that we can do it by a mere yogic process. Even for that, we have to depend on the Lord. Right, Mataji?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you for throwing light on that verse. Okay, continuing this process, Yudhishthir Maharaj did this. Tritve hutva cha panchatvam tachaikkatve juhun munihi sarvam atman ni ajuhavaid brahmani atmanam avyaye. Anyone would like to read translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thus
Yes.
annihilating the gross body of 5 elements into the 3 qualitative modes of material nature, he merged them in one nascence and then absorbed that nascence in the self, Brahman, which is inexhaustible in all circumstances. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So we were already talking about merging the 5 senses into the mind, and then the mind into the breathing, and then the life air, and then understanding your spirit soul, and then it has to eventually merge into the elements of nature. That is also there outside. We said that these things exist within our body and they also exist in the elements in nature. So all this is one by one merged externally as well into the external elements. So that is what is described in this particular verse. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, all that is manifested in this material world is a product of Mahat Tattva, Avyakta. And all that is visible in our material vision is nothing but combinations and permutations of such material products. So everything is avyakta, avyakta mahatattva. Mahatattva is basically the elements of material nature in a separated form, you can say. And they are and in a separated form, actually. That is Mahatattva. Pradhan or Prakriti is in a mixed form. Mahatattva, sometimes it is, we call it Avyakta, no, but there is also the Mahatattva, which is the separated elements. But these elements later they begin to cooperate. We will see that in Canto 3. I mean, I think it's too early to continue that topic. But basically, the elements are all present in this material nature. And whatever we see around us in this material world is nothing but a combination and permutation of various material products. So this Mahatattva has different elements like earth, water, air, fire, ether. Everything is present. But then whatever you see in this world, be it our material body or things around us, it is nothing but a combination of earth and fire, or maybe earth and space, or fire and water. So like that, various combinations is what we are seeing in this material world. Now, we living entities, we have forgotten our eternal nature as the servitor of the Lord, and we have been lording over this material nature, thinking this is everything, and this is a source of our sense enjoyment. So we see the world around us, which is nothing but a combination of various elements, and we try to enjoy it. And because of this, what is happening is there is more and more entanglement, and our mind is getting materially affected. So our mind gets materially affected. We have identification with our body, which is nothing but 5 gross elements. 5 gross elements are continuously interacting with the 3 modes of material nature, and this is creating our existence in this material world. But then, when one is inclined to become an associate of the Supreme Lord and decides to go to Goloka Vrindavan, which is actually different from this material world, he realizes that all these interaction with the 3 modes, the 5 gross elements, all this is temporary. We are not meant to be here. This is not our true nature. He understands that he is pure spirit. He is as good as Brahman qualitatively, as good as the Supreme Lord qualitatively. So this Yudhishthir Maharaj, all this while, he wanted to detangle. See, first you're entangled in this material world. You're identifying with the gross elements. You're identifying with mind, body, soul, ego. All this identification is going on, and we are completely intermixing with the things of this world. But now, in this process of yoga that Yudhishthir Maharaj is going through, he is detangling himself. He's stopping associating himself with all these different elements. And he is trying to understand that he is spirit soul, he is Brahman, he is a servant of the Lord, he is qualitatively similar to the Lord. Okay, so he has the sense of freedom from material relations as well as material engagement of gross and subtle elements. And he wants to spiritualize himself. That is what he's doing in this process. Now, when one is completely, one completely gets rid of these material designations, he's called as a Jivan Mukta. In this world itself, he's considered liberated. Though he's sitting in this material world, in this material world itself, he's considered as a Jivan Mukta. Okay, so that is the process of removing material existence or detangling from material existence. And Prabhupada says such a Jivan Mukta should not just be thinking that he's Brahman, he's spirit soul, but he must also act like Brahman. He should also act like a spirit soul. He should not still, he's just gone through the process of detangling from association with material elements. He should continue to completely remain detangled. Then only he's called as a Jivan Mukta. But if one person is simply thinking, I'm spirit soul, I'm going to merge into spirit, and not think of Krishna, such a person can be considered an impersonalist. So, one who continues to act on the platform of spirit soul, understanding he is servant of Krishna, such a person is a pure devotee. So, this process, it can result in 2 things. One is it can make you an impersonalist or it can make you a personalist. But a person like Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was aware of who he is, his identity. Of course, he was detangling from material existence, etc. But at the same time, he was completely aware that he's the servant of the Lord. So he's considered a pure devotee. So some Jivan Muktas, they are just Brahmavadis. But a person like Yudhishthir Maharaj, he is considered a pure devotee because he knew his ideal position, that he is the servant of the Lord. Okay. So this was Yudhishthir's case. So let's see how he further got liberated from this world. चीरवास निराहारो भक्तवान्मुक्तमूर्तजः दर्शयन् आत्मनो रूपं जडोन्मत्त पिशाचवत् अनवेक्षमानो निरगात् ashrinvan badiro yata. So he was practicing Jada Yoga. We see even in the case of Rishabdev, he was also practicing what is called as Jada Yoga. What is this Jada Yoga? We'll see that. That is the description here. After that, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he dressed himself in torn clothing. He gave up all solid foods. He voluntarily became dumb and let his hair hang loose. All this combined to make him look like an urchin or a madman with no occupation. He did not depend on his brothers for anything, and just like a deaf man, he heard nothing. This is called Jada Yoga, where you are not entangled in any sort of material affairs. You become free from all external affairs, and you don't care for anything. You don't care for prestige. You don't care for identification, somebody worshipping you, and you don't identify with anything and anybody, and you act like a madman. You don't speak of material affairs. You see, there is further description of Jada Yoga in 5th canto by Rishabdev. He puts stones in his mouth and he practices Mauna Vratha. So like that, he had no dependence on anything, anybody. He was not even taking care of his body. So he looked like a madman with long hair, and he was completely independent, and he was very purified at this point in time. There was no fearfulness about anything. See, when do we have fear? When we start identifying with our body, that is when fear develops. He had absolutely no fear, meaning he didn't have any identification with anything. So he was completely fearless. He didn't speak, he didn't hear, he was completely unkempt. He did not identify even with his brothers. So this was Yudhishthir Maharaj during his last stages. उदीचीं प्रविवेशाशं गतपूर्वां महात्मभिः हृदि ब्रह्म परं ध्यानं नावृतेत यतो गतः. Anyone for translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. He then started towards the north, treading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he lived in that way wherever he went. Hare Krishna.
So Maharaj Yudhishthir, he wanted to follow in the footsteps of his forefathers, and he started walking up north. That's how people perfected their lives in ancient times. They would walk up north, and their full-time focus would be Krishna consciousness. They would think of Krishna, and they would retire from household life. So in that time, during Yudhishthir Maharaj's time, this Vanaprastha rules and regulations were strictly followed by all the inhabitants. Whoever lived in the Aryavarta province, Prabhupada says, they all followed the 4 ashramas very strictly. And initially they were brahmacharis, then they took up to family life, and then to Vanaprastha, and eventually they gave up even that also, and they were in sannyas stage. So if one continues, Prabhupada says no respectable gentleman would continue family life till the end, because that was considered suicidal in the interest of human life. What is the interest of human life? Is to actually perfect your human life through Krishna consciousness. So if we are entangled in family life till the last day, then that is considered suicidal. So in order to become free from all these family encumbrances, that means to become free from all the burden of family life, it is very important to forcibly, consciously engage 100% in Krishna consciousness. So one should become a pure devotee, at least in his last stage of life. He should become sincere, just like Maharaj Yudhishthir, for his own interest. And Krishna, he has told this in 10:13. He says that Arjuna, he says, great authorities like Asita Devala, Narada, and Vyasa, they all have followed this process of listening to the Lord and perfecting their life in their last stage. And they all have understood that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna says that one should become a devotee. One should become a devotee during his last stage of life. And all the great sages, great authorities have ascribed to this, that you should follow what Krishna is telling. So like this, Maharaj Yudhishthir, taking the instructions of the Lord very sincerely, he leaves to the north. He remembers Krishna within his heart, and he follows the footsteps of his forefathers so that he can perfect his life. So he started walking up north, and let's see what happened further. Sarvetam anu nirjagmur bharat भ्रातरः कृतनिश्चयाः कलिना धर्ममित्रेण दृष्ट्वा स्पृष्टा प्रजा भुवि. Anyone for translation, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji. The younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhishthira observed that the age of Kali had already arrived throughout the world and that the citizens of the kingdom were already affected by irreligious practice. Therefore, they decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brother. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Haribo. So all the Bhrataraha, all the younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhishthir, they were always obedient to Maharaj Yudhishthir. They saw that Yudhishthir Maharaj had focused on the ultimate goal of life. So they also decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brothers. And this is also the recommendation, the principles of Sanatana Dharma that is given, that everybody in the later half of their life, they should focus on self-realization. But however, in today's world, we see many retirement, they are very bewildered. They don't know how to engage themselves in their last years of life. But however, they should all take inspiration from authorities like the Pandavas and ensure that their last few years is usefully passed in Krishna consciousness. So these Pandavas, they are eternal associates of the Lord, and they spent their time engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Srila Sridhara Swami, according to him, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, all these are conceived by various persons. But this is not the ultimate goal of life. What is the ultimate goal of life? The ultimate goal of life is to focus on Krishna consciousness. That is the ultimate goal of life. Throughout our life, we are engaged in dharma, artha, kama, moksha activities. But then our ultimate goal of life is to focus on the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, you are my dear friend. I am speaking to you the supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. What is the most confidential knowledge of all? Is to focus on Krishna consciousness. So the Pandavas, they were very intelligent and they followed this without any hesitation. They saw that their elder brother was setting the perfect example, and they also followed in the footsteps of their elder brother. ते साधुकृतसर्वार्थ ज्ञातव्यति अन्तिकम् आत्मनः मनसा धारयामासुर्वैकुण्ठचरणाम्बुजम्. Anyone for translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. They all had performed all the principles of religion, and as a result, rightly decided that the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna are the supreme goal of all. Therefore, they meditated upon his feet without interruption.
So they understood that the ultimate goal of life is to focus on the lotus feet of Krishna. So they meditated on the lotus feet of Krishna without any interpretation. Chakravarti Pad says Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha principles are accepted by persons who are not free from the results of impious actions. Such persons, they are affected by contaminations of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But if you really want liberation, if you really want to go to Vaikuntha, you should focus on something that is beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which is completely concentrate on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So the Pandavas, they did this in this life, and they also have done it in their previous lives. They were always eternal associates of the Lord. They were just not any ordinary pious people. And they achieved the Vaikuntha world, which is beyond the material sky. So this material world is under the management of Durga Devi. But the Vaikuntha world is beyond the external energy of the Lord. So if we want to go there, we should not just get entangled with things of this world. Rather, we should focus on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And in fact, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has told this only those who have done pious deeds in previous lives can become free from the results of all impious activities and concentrate on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna's lotus feet. And this was the case of the Pandavas. The Pandavas, right from their previous lives, and always, they have always been eternal associates of the Lord in this material world. So they know the ultimate goal of life. 47-48. तद्ध्यानोद्रिक्तया भक्त्या विशुद्धदिषणा परे तस्मिन्नारायणपदे एकान्तमतयो गतिम् अवापुर्दुरवापं ते असद्भिर्विषयात्मभिः विधूतकल्मषास्थानं विरजेनात्मनैव हि. Anyone would like to read translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thus, by pure consciousness due to constant devotional remembrance, they attain the spiritual sky, which is ruled over by the Supreme Narayana, Lord Krishna. This is attained only by those who meditate upon the one Supreme Lord without deviation. This abode of the Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna, known as Gokula Vrindavana, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in the material conception of life. But the Pandavas, being the completely washed of all the material contaminations, attained that abode in their very same bodies.
Yeah, so they went to the highest destination. So nicely here, even the verse also says that they took the shelter of Narayana. Tasmin Narayana Pade Ekantamatayo Gatyam. They went to Narayana Pada. So it is very clearly mentioned that the destination was the spiritual world without any kalmasha, without any material contaminations. So, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, a person who's freed from the three modes of material nature, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance, and who's situated in transcendence, can attain the highest perfection of life without change of body. This is interesting. The Pandavas, without change of body, they attained the highest perfection of life. So Sanatan Goswami in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, he says that a person, whatever he may be, can attain the perfection of a twice born Brahmana by undergoing scriptural disciplinary actions under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. In today's time and age, also in ISKCON, you don't have to be born a Brahmana. You can become a Brahmana. How do you become a Brahmana? How do you become a twice born Brahmana? You become a Brahmana by undergoing certain spiritual disciplinary actions. And if you have done it nicely, your spiritual master will give you Brahman Diksha, correct? So many of us, many people in this, in today's society also, in ISKCON, though they were not born as Brahmanas in a Brahminical birth, one becomes a Brahmana through discipline. But there are many people who are born Brahmana and have zero Brahmana qualities. So that is also there. And Prabhupada gives this analogy of exactly how a chemist can turn gunmetal into gold by chemical manipulation. Similarly, if there is actual guidance in becoming a Brahmana, without changing one's body, one can actually become a Brahmana. Okay. So similarly, Jiva Goswami says that anyone who executes devotional service systematically without deviation can attain the supreme goal, and go beyond the contamination of the three modes of material nature and attain perfection, go to the Goloka Vrindavan without change of body. And this actually happened in the case of the Pandavas. So one can go to spiritual world also without change of body if needed. It is completely under Krishna's control. He decides. If he thinks that you should go that way, he will take you that way. If he decides it's okay, you don't need this body, you have another special body, your identity is different in the spiritual world, your physical identity, you will give up this body and you can go. So, yes, Tulsi Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I had a question.
Mhm.
In the past, I don't know where I read or heard, but I heard that when the Pandavas left to go towards the north in the forest, towards Himalayas, one by one they fell down. Fell meaning not spiritually, but like physically. Draupadi first collapsed, and then it was one whoever, and then the next and next, and like that, and finally Yudhishthir. And then all this, and then I also near Radha Kund there is this place where the five Pandavas are in the form of trees. So how do we like reconcile all these different stories and
Yeah, so according to the Mahabharata, there is one by one everyone falls down, and then only Yudhishthir goes in a self same body to heavenly planet. And then in Bhagavatam sent everyone back home, back to Godhead. And then we also hear about the five trees. So the understanding, first let's analyze Mahabharata and Bhagavatam. We'll come to the five trees later. So when we talk about Mahabharata is meant for a particular set of audience, right? For a person who has read Srimad Bhagavatam and relished Bhagavatam all their life, if you ask them to read Mahabharata, it's not really so uplifting. It's a lot of story, masala, this, that, encouraging dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That is the focus of Mahabharata. It's meant for a particular set of audience who are interested in the worldly affairs. So for them, the storytelling has focus on temporary goals, saying that, oh, you do this and they were so righteous, they went to heaven, period, done, great. But here we are reading Bhagavatam. Now, Bhagavatam, it doesn't talk about lower goals at all, right? The audience is different, the goal is different. So, what is really the praman? What is really correct? We go with the stand of the Srimad Bhagavatam for absolute clarity. If someone says, okay, if there are going to be different scriptures talking about the same story with a different twist, then which one should I take? You should take the Bhagavatam. That is why Srila Jiva Goswami wrote Tata Sundarbha, right? How Bhagavatam is the ultimate praman. So he has written one full book just why you should take it as Praman. He's taken so much effort to say that. So definitely, yes, we just take the ultimate stand of the Bhagavatam because the Bhagavatam is meant for a person who has advanced beyond the ideologies of Mahabharata, correct? So we can really understand. Now you give this high level of knowledge to someone who is still at a very lower level. It's difficult for them to process. So sometimes the Pauranikas or the persons who are telling the stories, here we have Shukdev Goswami, he's topmost, maybe Sesut Goswami or others. Who are telling the story, they could say it in a way so that the common people can get information catering to them. So the audience that is being catered is different. So there will be slight variations in the characterization of different personalities, which so that the people can understand accordingly. Then for the five trees, all these eternal associates of the Lord, they also want to participate in to some capacity in Braj Leela. So they have their you can say their expansions invested in certain locations. And they continue to have a flavor of what the Lord is doing in Brajbhumi. So you can reconcile like that, Mataji.
okay, Mataji? So they probably later on came to also like they are simultaneously in Braj in the
Simultaneous.
in Bhauma
Yes.
Vrindavan and also in Golok Vrindavan or somewhere
Goloka.
in Krishna Loka.
Yes.
So, but
Krishna Loka.
although Vyasdev only wrote Mahabharat and Bhagavatam both, right? So it's like
Yeah,
amazing that.
but the Bhagavatam we have is a revised version, right? So we have Vyasadev and we have Shukdev Goswami's inputs, and it has been revised
Oh, okay.
in its
Maybe
maturity.
they temporarily did go to heavenly planet and then come down
Yeah,
and
of
then like
course.
just come down and continue. Like we don't want to be here. We would rather be on earth and then continue our bhakti and go to Krishna's lok, or who knows.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. Many stories are like that. Like, for example, now he will discuss about Vidura. He says Vidura went to Pitraloka planet. He didn't go back home, back to Godhead. So he discusses that. So yes, temporarily, yes, definitely. He goes there interim period. Like in Ramayana, we see the story of Dashrath Maharaj. So there also interim period. He was located there for a while and then he proceeds.
Achha, where Dashrath Maharaj was somewhere in Pitrulok and then he goes to
No, heaven.
heaven. Acha. Okay, means I guess when Lord Ramachandra ultimately takes everyone, that time his father he must have taken to the eternal Ayodhya Loka.
Yes,
Like
correct.
this,
Till then,
even
interim
Vidurji
period.
was he was actually cursed. He was Yamraj, right?
Yeah.
So he may have been purified as pure devotee and still being his service in
Finishing
Pitru
his term as the Yamraj, then he will.
until the
So they have
Manvantara
some.
ends, right? So I think
Yeah,
some of them will still be here and there, and when the Manvantara ends, their duties end, then they will go back to spiritual world.
100%. Yes, Mataji, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Very well. So here we see Vidura's case. Here. Viduropi parityajya prabhase dehamatmanah krishnaveshena tachitta pitrabhi swakshayam yayau. Mataji, you want to read the translation?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Vidura, while on pilgrimage, left his body at Prabhas. Because he was absorbed in thought of Krishna, he was received by the denizens of the Pitralok planet, where he returned to his original post.
Yeah. So what happened in the case of Vidura? Vidura goes back to Pitraloka because his term was not completed. And Prabhupada says that's the difference between the Pandavas and Vidura. The Pandavas were eternal associates of the Lord, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas Vidura was one of the administrative demigods in charge of the Pitraloka planet, and he was in the post of Yamaraj. So he was a great devotee. But however, we should understand that because he had come as Vidura as a result of the curse by Manduka Muni, he was born in a degraded birth as a Shudra. But eventually, his devotional activities made him a very, very advanced personality. So much so that he was even the reason for Dhritarashtra getting salvation. So this is the kind of devotion that Vidura did. And after his period here, he gave up his body and he goes back to Pitraloka in his original position. So basically, there are some demigods who are also associates of the Lord. But however, there are direct associates of the Lord who are in personal touch with him. So the direct associate is somebody like Pandavas, and the indirect associate, like that of demigods, is Vidura's case. But however, we should remember that Vidura's devotion was kept intact. Okay. And Prabhupada says here, the Lord remembers everything, whereas his associates, they forget due to them being very minute parts and parcels. So they forget many incidents. But however, the Lord doesn't forget anybody's life, what their past is, what their present is, what their future is, and so on. We just have two more verses. I will take 5-10 minutes and finish it because it's very short. I don't want to stop abruptly where we don't have a closure. We'll just finish off Draupadi's end and we are done. Okay, just 2 more verses, 5 minutes if you give me, I'll be done. द्रौपदी च तदाज्ञाय पत्नीम् पतीनामनपेक्षितां वासुदेवे भगवती हि एकान्तमतिरापतम्. Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, they were leaving home. She knew very well about Lord Vasudeva Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and attained the same result as their husbands. Here specifically, it is written about Draupadi, but Chakravarti Pad says that when you say Draupadi, you should also include the other wives like Subhadra. So, in the translation, Prabhupada mentions both Draupadi and Subhadra. Both of them, they understood that their husbands had perfected life and they moved on. So they also had the right knowledge. Draupadi was a very intelligent woman, and of course was Subhadra because she was directly the sister of the Lord. So they also focused their mind perfectly on the Lord, and they attained the highest goal. Here, one instruction for all women is given by Srila Prabhupada. I've heard this from many great advanced devotees, many Matajis, many Prabhupada disciples. They always tell this. Everybody should fly their own airplane. Yes, when we are married and we are with our husbands, it's natural for a woman to feel dependent on her husband. It's very natural. Every woman feels that. But however, when it comes to devotion, it is extremely important to fly your own airplane. Okay? And Prabhupada says that the help will be there on the ground. See what Prabhupada is telling. The help is, however, offered on the ground before flying in space. But who is going to fly in space? It is every individual who will fly in space. The spiritual master, the father, the mother, the relative, the husband, and others can render help during one's lifetime. But while crossing the sea, one has to take care of himself and utilize the instructions that is formally received. So Draupadi, yes, she was a very chaste woman. She was very subservient to her husband, whatever it may be. But she knew when time comes to show, nobody is going to be there with you. You have to fly your own airplane. So Draupadi had 5 husbands, and no one asked Draupadi to come. Last moments of life, nobody asked Draupadi to come. Draupadi had to take care of herself without waiting for her great husbands. And because she was already trained, she focused on the lotus feet of Vasudeva Krishna. And the wives also got the same results as the husband. So we should not think only men are getting liberated. No, women are sometimes even more dedicated. Okay. So she focused, she knows, she got the lessons just like Devahuti. Devahuti, Kardama Prajapati. Kardama Prajapati said bye bye and went away. He didn't say, Devahuti, Devahuti, come, I will liberate you. No. She had to fly her own airplane. She had to listen from Kapila Muni and then she attained perfection. So we have to be very aware that we have an airplane to fly. Yes, we can take all the training on the ground level, but then ultimately we have to use our intelligence. Nobody is going to help us. Nobody is going to call us. Every individual's journey is different and we should take it very seriously. This is also a lesson that I've learned for myself. I know nobody will be till the end and you have to really struggle and somehow we have to perfect this life. I don't know what will happen in future, but somehow I'm praying by Krishna's mercy all of us have the opportunity to. Okay, last one. Yet Shraddadaye tad bhagavat praniyam priyanam Pando sutanamiti samprayanam Shrunoti alam swasti ayanam pavitram Labdva harau bhakti mupaiti siddhim. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life back to Godhead is fully auspicious and perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotion, faith, certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life. So, even if we hear this episode very carefully, read it over and over, we can attain the highest perfection of life. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a narration of the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord's devotees like the Pandavas. And whatever narration is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is absolute in itself. So we hear it with a devotional attitude and we try to associate with the Lord constantly. We take inspiration from the stories of the companions of the Lord. So, by this process of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is a description of the associates of the Lord and the Supreme Lord Himself, one can attain the highest perfection of life, which is going home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says, without failure. Without failure. I think that is a very promising phrase. So, if we can continuously hear Bhagavatam that is full of description of the Lord and His devotees, maybe by Krishna's mercy, we all can also perfect. Not maybe, we should be confident. Yeah. We should be confident that we will also attain perfection without failure. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll end here and we'll continue from chapter 16 in the next class. Sorry for the delay again. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anything else to add?
Haribol Mataji, may I add little?
Yes, please.
Yes, I have heard Sripad Radha Govinda Swami Maharaj saying like that we are all infected with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, and Janma, we have some antidote for Jara, for Vyadhi, we have medical, kind of this thing. But Bhagavan Krishna has not given any antidote for death. Nobody can do that. But Srimad Bhagavatam is the medicine. Nivritta tarsair
Ayurharati Vaipumsam.
Yes. Also, Nivritta tarsair upagiyamana bhava usada srutra manobhirama. Bhava ausad. So that ausad he has given us for antidote of death. And anyone who keeps his mind in Srimad Bhagavatam, he is guaranteed this kind of, highest liberation from this material miseries. Like that. I just reflected that, Mother.
Very
Brahmaji, can you please share it in the WhatsApp group? This is wonderful.
Nivritta tarse rupa viyamana. This is Bhagavatam in the beginning. Anyway, I can do that later.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Anything else?
Mataji,
I think it is 10:14.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, I just had a speculative thought just now. And it's that maybe sometimes pure devotees like Pandavas, if on their journey to go back home, they are going via stopping to the heavenly planets, it could be an arrangement of the Lord, because he wants the devatas to also get some mercy by associating with pure devotees. So
of course.
It's like,
of course, yes. There's always a higher plan, and Krishna is very intelligent. He takes care of multiple things at one shot, right? So yes, very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. Praladananda Prabhu, that verse that he quoted is 10:14. You can see it, Mataji. Okay. So thank you, dear devotees, and we will meet next on Tuesday, and we'll go to the next chapter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji, because you are doing Bhagavatam, we are listening to it, and we also may have a chance. And if we get it, imagine yours, what is your applied? You are taking the effort to give it to us. So we Mataji. Thank you very much.
Dandavats, Mataji, to all of you. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaः. Ananta Guru ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Bhagavatam ki jai. Her Grace Preeti Vilasni Mataji ki jai.
Jai